everyone, and welcome back to the She Shoots podcast, Women Empowering Women in the Shooting Community, Season 4, Episode 42, Real Armory and Prop Master. My name is Regina Ruiz Ordóñez, and I'm from the Canadian University Shooting Federation. And joining me today, as always, are Deneen Tomlin and Casey Gavanchuk from Lady Guns, and Kelly Melanson from Maple Seed Project, Sunfire Radio, and CCFR Women's Program. Let's start by thanking our sponsors of today's episode, Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fund, positively shaping the future of the outdoors. Every cent donated by rounding up at checkout goes towards helping Canadian organizations just like ours. Beretta, family owned and operated since 1526, and Vortex, the best in optics. If you have any questions or comments throughout the show, make sure to leave them in the chat box below, and we'll be able to share your comments and also ask our guests directly your questions. So that's it for me. On to Deneen and Kelly to introduce our guest for today.
Thank you very much, Regina, and good evening, everyone. We are live tonight with our friend Dustin. So I get a chance to talk about you, Dustin. Then we're going to ask some good questions. So let's hear about Dustin. You were born and raised in Saskatchewan, and it says you remain a prairie boy at heart, and that you were raised around rural gun culture. So we already have one thing in common, not the Saskatchewan. As an adult, you moved to British Columbia to pursue a career in film, and you've spent the last 15 years working primarily in the props department as a props master and a licensed armor. He has been lucky enough to learn from some of the most experienced people in the business and has had the opportunity to work on productions of all types, from small budget series to big budget feature films. I can't wait to hear about them. His personal passion for firearms has helped him build a reputation for his safety focus and attention to detail. Dustin is also a proud recent addition to Slamfire Radio, and in his spare time, you can usually find him out plinking, training for a match, or in his workshop building something unique and interesting. Welcome to the show, Dustin. We're excited to have you tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So Dustin and I have known each other. How long, Dustin?
Oh goodness, it's years, many years.
Thanks. I'm
old. So am I. It's scary. It's happening in real time.
Yeah. No, I was super excited when you came and joined us on Slamfire Radio. You were the obvious choice. I don't think the other ladies know this, but you came on one time when you were quote unquote the other Kelly. Yeah. So I know a lot about you, but I don't know if our listeners know a lot about you. So why don't you tell us? I know that your bio described you coming or growing up in Saskatchewan, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about life in Saskatchewan? What was it like? Did you grow up in a household where firearms were, the everyday norm? Did you go and do, prairie gophers,
farm boy things?
Yeah.
I did many farm boy things. So I've had the good opportunity to grow up in both like very, very small town. And I grew up on a farm for several years. And then obviously my grandfather was my big firearms inspiration. He's the one that really got me into it. He grew up on a small farm. And that was just sort of a thing that he and I shared. My dad wasn't actually super into guns. But my grandfather was, and it was just a thing that he and I did. And then obviously some of my friends in school growing up, we all kind of bonded over that. Many a gopher were slaughtered over the years. And I think I got a pellet gun when I was maybe 7, and I was lethal with that thing real quick. And so the grandfather saw that I had a good aptitude for it and decided to kind of steer me in the right direction. I don't know. I consider myself really lucky. I've had a childhood that a lot of people, and maybe I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid because I wanted to be in the city when I was a kid, but I realize now how lucky I was to get to do some of the things I did. And growing up around people with the same mentality, even when we moved into town, like next door, we had a farmer, like retired farmer as a neighbor. And I remember one morning there was in the summertime, a magpie making a nest in a tree between our houses, and it would annoy both he and I. So I was out there one morning with a pellet gun, and he comes out and he's like, let me get you something a little bit more powerful. And comes out 22, puts a ladder on his house, puts me up on his roof. He's like, you get a better shot from there. And my mom's only concern, this is Saskatchewan mentality. My mom's only concern was that I might fall and hurt myself, not that I'm on a roof with a rifle. So yeah, it's a different way to grow up.
Yeah.
The good old days. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
The good old days.
And so after you got off the roof, Dustin, did you get an opportunity to get into more firearms and competitions or anything early, or did that come later?
So I didn't do competitions early. I got to hunt, got my miner's license. That happened. I don't remember exactly when I did that, but I got my miner's license, took that in school, which was interesting. Doing firearms training in school is like people's minds would explode now. So mostly grew up like doing hunting, conservation, that sort of stuff. It wasn't until I was out in Vancouver that I actually got into more sport shooting competition stuff. Yeah.
So talk about the transition to Vancouver. What led to you moving there?
Lots of things led to me moving here. So I went to university. I have a mechanical engineering degree actually, and I thought I had a different course for my life. But I was fairly unhappy by the time I finished that degree, and had several kind of like life things happen around the same time. And the biggest one was actually I got gay bashed in Saskatchewan, and it was that coupled with the police general ambivalence to the situation. I needed a big change. I had a partner that had encouraged me to maybe consider chasing after my love of film, because I've always loved movies. It's the one thing. You grow up in the prairies with not a lot to do. You maybe watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And realizing like, I could maybe be in film in some capacity. That sounds kind of cool. And so I did. I kind of packed up my car and moved across country, and pursued that. I went to film school, again thinking I was going to do one thing. I completely fell into my career, which is really funny, especially now that I'm here being interviewed about it.
Well, maybe we should talk about that then. You were off in the engineering direction, then you went to film school, and now you're a props master and armorer. So how did you fall into that segment of the film industry?
I have firearms to thank for my career, which is, I'm not kidding. So I thought I was going to be a camera operator. That was my focus all through film school. I had a video production business for about a year out of film school. But I still also I was trying to get into film. So the easiest way to do that was doing what do you call it? Basically like an intern position in the camera department, where you're not working for any money or almost no money, and you're working just the worst jobs. But that was how you got into that department, into that union. It was a whole thing. And while I was doing that, I still needed to feed myself. So I was also gripping and doing just, move thing here for, XYZ department. And one day I had a buddy call me, and he knew that I've built props my whole life. I'm very into like cosplay, anime, that sort of thing. And he called me out of the blue one day. Hey, you do prop stuff, right? I'm like, yeah, I love prop stuff. And he's like, and you have a gun license? Because by this point I've been pretty vocal with all my friends, my passion for firearms. It's a thing that most people have always known about me. So I had my gun license, and that is a requirement for the props department. And he was working on this police TV show, and he was going to be gone for a week. He's like, I need someone with a gun license to replace me for a week. Can that be you? And I was like, sure, I like money. Working in props is probably better than, working, in the grip department, standing in the rain. And the prop master that I worked for loved me. He ended up hiring me for the rest of that show and several other shows. But had I not had my gun license, that very first thing just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So do you want to talk about all the stuff that you've had to do to become a prop master?
Oh goodness.
and
Yeah,
an armorer? Yeah, because
And
it's
an
Yeah.
armor,
it's
yeah.
not an easy feat.
it's not. So like to be an armorer, like to have your to get your business license for that specific purpose for providing firearms for theatrical purposes, the CFO looks at like what is your need, and had I not had several years of not just props experience but prop master experience, they wouldn't have given me my license. And even then, I wouldn't have gotten my license had I not spent those years in props meeting the people who basically built the industry in BC. I got really, really lucky that I worked on a production early on where I literally met the first guy, the first armorer in BC. I know him, his whole story. He likes to remain very private, so I won't share that story, but he's got a wild, interesting story. And he was about 24, 25 when he started out here. And he built a whole cool business. But if there's like a cool movie or TV show that was shot in Vancouver, between the 80s and now, his business has been involved in some capacity, almost certainly. And he's got a couple of armorers that work for him full time, and a few others that work part time. I had the good fortune over my early part of my career hiring them onto certain shows, because as the prop master, anything that an actor handles or touches is my responsibility at the end of the day, and that includes firearms. And then before I had my BFL, I would hire someone to fill that role, to provide the firearms for the film, and then on set there's going to be somebody like an armorer is going to be on set that day. And so I got to make friends with folks that have been doing this longer than I've been alive. And you get to learn from the best and build those. It's like any kind of training or practice, like building the like good habits early on, seeing how the right way to do things is done. And that was instrumental. And then because the one person in question, he sort of started that industry in BC, the CFO does have a conversation with him before they issue a new license like that. I know they did. And so not only did I, get his,
Blessing.
sort of blessing, and still the process, it was a couple of years, I think, back to front to get my license. It was almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then you
go ahead.
Go
No.
ahead, Deneen. Nope.
I'm bursting with questions. I have and now I want to know what it is that the job entails, because I'm assuming, so you're going to help us, Dustin, in case this is that my assumptions are going the wrong way. But I think collectively we watch movies and we see all this prop work, including firearms, and we make assumptions about what happens. And then you hear about incidents and you're like, oh, well, how can a prop be dangerous? So tell us what happens when I'm like I said, I got so many questions. You get assigned to a movie, and all of a sudden you've got a project in front of you where you have to get props, you have to prove safety, you got to do all sorts of things. Tell us what a day in the life of Dustin is like.
Oh goodness. So there's different stages of a production, right? So when I get hired, it's going to be in the pre-production stage. Before any cameras are rolling, before there's 150 crew members on site, there's going to be the production crew in the office that sort of is planning out the thing, and I'll get brought on fairly early on. Whether that's in the prop master capacity, like I'll get hired on pretty quick. And then the first part of the job is to figure out what guns are going to be needed. If we're going to be talking about, like, if I get hired for an action movie, if it's an action movie, we're going to be having gun conversations immediately. We'll probably, if there's firearms in the script, we'll probably have a gun conversation immediately first, and that first conversation will be, are we doing any live fire or not? Yes, no, because that's already a big thing, and it's going to affect insurance. It's going to affect just shooting locations. It's going to affect the budget because we have to have certain amounts of police on site. So there's going to be a lot of factors that we'll iron out right at the very front. And live fire, obviously, as you've mentioned several times, courtesy of some incidents, like live fire is decreasing rapidly. Still do it from time to time, but it is rarer and rarer, which is really sad. But
Okay, Dustin, before we go forward,
yep,
so we don't know the. Sorry, I got a frog in my
the
throat.
terminology.
Yeah. So can we talk about live fire? What it means on a set specifically? Because people are
It
going to
does.
ask, is that different than me going to the range and shooting? So let's talk about that before we
That's a
get
good
to.
question. Great
Yeah.
We should thank you, and please
Yeah.
stop me. I have a tendency to ramble. Kelly knows this. Yes. So when I'm speaking about live fire in a film context, I'm always talking about blank fire.
Yeah.
In Canada, it is against the law for there to be live ammunition on set at all. Right? It is contradictory to my license. It says it right on my license. There cannot be live ammunition on that set. So like that's, if we're talking live fire, we're talking blank fire. So I'll try to say blank fire instead. And then the other most common, type that we're going to see now with the advent of better and better airsoft guns is gas blowback is the other. So you've got just an airsoft gun that's been modified just to cycle the action, but not shoot anything. And we're using those more and more. It at least gives the actor something that reacts at least a little bit in their hand, and we still see that motion on camera. Yeah. So that's going to be the first conversation. Are we doing live fire? Yes, no, because we're going to have a whole other bunch of conversations if yes. And then if no, okay, well, that simplifies things. It limits us in other fields, because if we're doing live fire, we've got access to more cool stuff. Just outright. There are way more cool things that shoot blanks than just airsoft. So after that's been determined, let's say we're going to do live fire. Well, then we're going to have several conversations about safety. We're going to have some lawyer conversations. Goodness, there's going to be a lot of paperwork signed, and because there's a liability thing too, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Everybody says, "Oh, I'd love to be an armor." I'm like, do you want to be liable for anything that happens with any gun on set? Because that's what you're signing up for. Yeah. You're liable for everything, and you're responsible for everyone's safety. So after we've determined, okay, we're going to do some live fire. Let's say we're going to do live fire outside. That's going to let us use a variety of different blanks. We've got blanks come in a couple of different flavors, if you will. We'll do quarter loads if we're going to do inside. Still really loud, but give you a good flash for camera. Half loads is about as big as anyone would ever do indoors, and only for a big muzzle flash that you're specifically doing for camera. We don't usually do even half loads indoors, but we will outdoors, just because it will give you a bit of a better flash, especially in the daytime. And you can do full loads as well. I don't know if I've ever been on set for full loads going off. Even a half load is more than an adequate amount of powder. So
right. So when we talk about the blanks themselves, so the blanks do not have a projectile in them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the huge difference. There's no projectile in it, but you still have everything with it. You still have, when you talk about half loads, quarter loads, and full loads, and that's for the effects of the movie, so you can see the recoil and different things like that.
Yep.
But there is no projectile.
No. So the cases are longer and they're crimped. So it's basically in your standard case. It'll fit and cycle in a normal gun, but instead of there being a projectile, where the projectile is, the case is longer and it's crimped, and that's just holding the powder. So once we know kind of what we're going to be doing, then we'll break out into a team, usually a combination of like the stunt coordinator, myself, if it's not going to be me doing the armory work, if I'm prop mastering and it is a big gun sequence, I'll bring someone in. As we've learned, that is having guns on set, the person responsible for the guns on set needs to be responsible for just the guns on set. I will supervise if I'm prop mastering a show and we've got like a scene that's got some gun, got a little bit of gunfire. I'll do that job because I can turn everything else off for like the day that I need to be on set and do that. But if it's going to be something big and I'm responsible for all of the props, then I'm going to bring in someone that's going to be responsible for just the guns, or I've been brought in to be responsible for just the guns, because it can be a big job, right? So yeah, once we've kind of established a plan with the relevant folks, like I said, stunts, myself, if it's going to be an armorer, the armorer, usually the director and potentially cast, plan out what the sequence is going to be, and then we get to the day and we execute. Somewhere in there will be fun production meetings where we get to show off all of our wares. We always do a prop show and tell, and the gun show and tell is always a lot of fun. Getting to just show off all the different things that we're going to have in pre-production. But even then, doing a clear and safe is kind of becoming standard. So demonstrating every single thing. So if we're going to have a show and tell, I bring a case with like several guns into the office. I'm going to clear and safe them myself before I ever put them out. But the second I've got people in the office, we're going to go through every one of those and and check, see there's nothing in the action, see there's no ammunition here, and leave that just like you were shooting on the range, leaving all guns open, clear and safe, and assuming that all guns are loaded at all times. That's the gold standard. And then once we get to like production phase, there's a whole other level there. So any day that we're doing live fire on set, we're going to have a safety meeting right in the morning, do a briefing with the entire crew. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing XYZ shooting today. And once we get to those scenes, we're going to have another safety meeting right before that scene, anytime that we're doing blank fire. Honestly, at this point, we usually have some kind of a production meeting anytime a firearm of any sort is going to, like, say, leave a holster. If somebody's going to be waving a gun around, even if it's an airsoft gun, we're going to have a safety meeting about that before we do it. Go over, everybody on set wears walkies, so we can all kind of hear each other on channel 1. So even if you're not in the immediate vicinity, that safety meeting is going to get broadcast so that you can hear it. And then again, regardless of if it's blank fire, if it's airsoft, every gun's going to get cleared with myself. If I'm going to put my armorer hat on today, I'm going to clear every single gun first before it comes to set. And that'll happen on the prop truck. We'll do all of our safety prep on the prop truck, clearing, making sure all the guns are, maybe doing a cycle test depending on where we are, because some guns are a little bit finicky. So using the prop truck as a shooting lane is never a bad idea, as long as you let the locations folks know ahead of time. But we'll clear and save all the guns, bring them to set, and then with the AD, any actors involved, and the stunt coordinator, we will again clear and save each and every one of those firearms then and there, so that everybody around knows that that gun is safe. And regardless of if we're doing live, like blank fire, or if we're just doing gas blowback, we're going to go through the same actions. It's just that repetition of safety. And that has been ever more emphasized courtesy of the incident. But no, honestly, how firearms are handled on set in Canada and in Vancouver and the surrounding area particularly is the gold standard. Stand by it. We have never had an incident here, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
That's great news. Congratulations for keeping up the gold standard.
Thank you.
So okay, I got to go back. I'm still on my list of millions of questions. So you've got the script, and there's going to be gunfire in the script. So where do you go to get your prop guns? Is there a Guns R Us kind of place, or do you have a big giant secret place full of prop guns? Like, what do you got?
There is a big giant secret place full of prop guns, and it is beautiful. It is cool. It's pretty magnificent. I smile every time I go in there. There's a couple of guns I can't not touch, and they know it's always the same ones. I visit them. I'm like, you belong to me, even though you live here. But yeah, there's a magnificent place. It is kind of Candyland for anybody that loves firearms. Like I said, the guy that owns it, he's been doing this for 40 years now, 45 years, and he has amassed an impressive collection of things. If you can think it, he's probably got it. and there's some really cool pieces there. So yeah, so when we get the script, and okay, there's going to be a bunch of guns in here. If I get really lucky, the director won't have like an idea in their head about what the guns are. And that's the most fun for me, because then I get to pick the guns, or at least like recommend guns. So like I'll pick a couple of different options for every character, and then I'll kind of like nudge in the right direction. Like this is the one that we should use here. So I did one movie where we definitely, it called for a 50 Desert Eagle, and I was like, oh, I know where Deadpool's 50 Desert Eagle lives, so we might have to use that one. And we did, and it was great. And I'm one of the few people who have gotten to shoot that gun a couple of times, or those guns. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so we'll pick out the guns, encourage the right selection of them, and whether they need to be dressed up too, because like that's also a thing, right? How they need to look, and also what we're going to be doing with them. Sometimes we might not be able to do the gun that is wanted or required, because maybe there isn't a good rubber of it, and this person's going to be doing like a 50-foot fall or something, where like you're going to need a good replica that isn't going to get broken or hurt someone. So there's been a couple of times where we've had to change things for that reason, or maybe, you know, a script will call for like four different guns. I did one movie where like this one bad guy character like just kept pulling different guns from who knows where, and we got it down to 2. It's like, can he have just these 2? Can we like, and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So, you know, there'll be times like that as well, but mostly
you're keeping it so you're keeping it real is what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
You're trying to keep it real, unless it's futuristic. And then I know you love those futuristic guns.
I love a good space gat. If I can put a space gat in a movie, I will. Yeah, there's for sure. I'll keep it real, or within like a realm of maybe reality. There's been times like I did a movie where we had a whole group of these guys that the script called for like short barrel AK-47s, and I was like, that is so boring, and it's been done to death a million times. And we ended up being able to sell the director on a bunch of short barrel SIG 5.52s, and those look way cooler and were a lot of fun. And you know, so stuff like that. Yeah, get an opportunity to pick cool things.
So every time you and I, as well as Deneen and everybody that's probably listening or watching, we like guns.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing, it used to be when I went to the movies and I was with somebody, and they knew something about the movie, right? And we're going, oh God, you know, and they're talking in my ear. I said, just enjoy the movie. But now when I go to a movie and I'm looking at an action movie, and I'm either looking at the grip, or I'm looking at what the gun is, and I'm going, that's not believable at all. Or the grip.
Yep.
I cannot watch Quantico. I just can't. Anyways, so how involved are you in that? How involved are you in helping the actors with, you know, grip and ensuring that it's believable?
So it really depends on how important that is to the production. So like in my bio, I said I've worked on productions of all different scales, from small movie of the week style stuff to bigger things. Generally, the bigger budget, the more time that we have in prep, and the more money we have, the more interested production is in things being accurate. And that depends, right? If we're doing a movie where I've got 3 weeks prep, I'm lucky if they'll give me the actor for a day to teach them how to properly handle a firearm. Like I have had multiple shows where, because we weren't doing any blank fire, they're like, no, we don't really need to do like a day of training. And I'm like, can I have them for an hour before you put them on camera? And there's been times where like they fought me even on that. And then we get to set and they look ridiculous. And you'll get some producer who'll be like, this is bad. I'm like, okay, well, can you guys do something else for like a little bit? Let me see if I can't fix this.
Right. Just
that
so
happens.
They call you and fix that. Make that better.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like
can you please take them over there and show them?
I've
right?
also, and it's not just the actors, like it'll be background too. I did a show out on the island a few years ago now. It was a series, and the actor, like I had lots of time with the main actors. That was great. but we had a background SWAT team, and I got assured that these were all guys that like were experienced like had experienced doing this role as background. And it became apparent that like one of them had ever even held a firearm before, and they had to like believably look like they were going, and it was a big thing. And we, just by the luck of it being a really complicated shooting day, because they came in once and did a test, and it was not good. And that particular show, the director actually cared. And he was really stressing about how crappy this was going to look. I was like, give me an hour with them. And we did, and taught 6 of them how to move with, in a group with firearms together. And, it was a pretty big sequence. There was like a camera jib arm involved. You're going to go up a flight of stairs and move through a building. And I've been lucky that I have taken some use of force courses, and I like have learned how to move with a firearm with other people and do that safely. And trying to convey that to people. And at the end of like that, we do the scene, and the producer who had hired me came and like put his hand on my shoulder while we're rolling. He's like, thank you so much. And so like it's worth it for moments like that when those things happen. But obviously the ideal is to have people ahead of time. And I always push for that. Anytime I can, if I can familiarize an actor with a gun before they're on camera with it, because you get lots of actors that are very uncomfortable. If you've never handled a firearm before, and you see people that get the shakes. And so being able to like demystify that a little bit ahead of time is also really great. I forget how you framed your original question. I kind of hope I answered it.
No, you did. You did, totally. That's to Kelly's point, one of the things that gets me the most, and it's the most common, is they're running around with the finger on the trigger, waving the gun in the movie, and you're like, if that particular person was, that profession or whatever they're portraying, they wouldn't be doing that. So yeah, you have those moments when you're watching your movie or whatever, and you're like, can't believe they're doing that. Yeah. But
I get a lot of friends will like just send me random messages when a new movie comes out, be like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, I didn't work on the movie. Like, what do you want from me? Or like, I've been brought in as an armorer for like, if we're doing like, if a show is doing live fire or flying fire, they might bring me in for those days, but might not bring me in for anything else. If they're just doing gas blowback stuff, well, that's just a replica. The license requirements is a little less. And so the prop master might handle that. And I did a show a couple of years ago where that was the case, where they had shot for 2 or 3 days before they brought me. And then I came out, and the actor, she was supposed to do a kind of complicated sequence. And I watched it once. I'm like, no, we're going to fix this. I'm going to teach you how to go through a door with a gun. Like you're supposed to have some training here. She was playing like a, ex-military, and she didn't look it at all, and managed to get that to a point where like it looked good, and she was going through this door well. And anyway, as a result of like that day and just making her more comfortable, she ended up demanding that they bring me back for the rest of the show. And I saw the scenes that got shot before, and I'm like, oh, this is why.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand that. So
no,
I just wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to the gas blowback, right? Yep. So when we're talking about that, a lot of the scenes afterwards there's artificial intelligence that's used in movies now, and how common is that now compared to even 10 years ago?
Oh, it's night and day. There's even 5 years ago, like even if you turn the clock, like, all right, so like honestly, the great incident, it was I think I came on the show on Slamfire before I was on it.
We had you on at a guest, and it was because of what happened.
And I was prepping a show during that, and we had mostly gas blowback with a couple of live fire days. We were shooting in some sensitive locations that didn't want us to do live fire. Thankfully, the director and the producer still wanted some live fire, so we still got some. But I had a lot of gas blowback guns that were going to be on that show, and the incident happened. And immediately I went from, I'm going to come pick these up next week, to the great magical place where all of the cool prop guns live. I called them and was like, I'm coming to get these now. I'm pulling everything that we want right now. And he's like, that is a good call, because overnight, every production that was doing live fire all of a sudden wasn't. And everything went to gas blowback or replica, and there's still some of it, but it is still incredibly slow. I'm actually, along with another prop building company in town, I've been helping develop a light gun that works in gas blowback that should give realistic muzzle flash on camera rather than just comping it in, because you don't get the same light throw in the room. So I'm helping ruin my own industry a little bit, but yeah, it is what it is. I know that like Netflix wants almost no real firearms on set. Disney, I think, as well. I think they've got just like a zero tolerance policy for functional firearms on set as a result of that. So, but on the other end of the spectrum, you still got other shows that are still into it. It's not official yet, but I'm still in talks for a fairly well-known show to do a season of it, and there will be some live fire on that show.
Live fire. Are you able to talk about some of the shows that you have been on? I know you're not allowed to talk about the stuff that's coming in the future.
Yeah.
But are you able to tell us about some of the shows that you were either the prop master or the armorer on?
Yeah, for sure. I try to speak in vagaries for like just to not get myself in trouble, but I mean, I happily tell you some stories. What would you like to know?
So, probably, what was your most fun? What did you which show did you enjoy the most, or which movie did you enjoy the most?
Okay, so the one that I really enjoyed the most was one I did a long time ago. I did the 5th Marine movie. I prop mastered that. It was actually where I made some of my best like armorer connections, and we had so many guns on that show. It was hilarious. We did so much live fire on that show that I got bored of it. There were like, usually I will make a point to go be on set when guns are going off. It's like, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for it. Even if I do have an armorer on set, it's still, I'm the head of the department. So there is an element of I'm responsible and should be here for this.
Yeah.
But we were doing it so much that I was like, oh, it's just the Glock going off. We had a Glock 18. I was like, watch that go off 100 times. I don't need to be there for that. And I just like working away on the prop truck and just hear the brrr as it's like spitting out. That gun has a cyclic rate that's ridiculous. So it just like spits out cases. So that was a lot of fun, because what didn't we have? We had belt-fed machine guns. We had assault rifles of every flavor, automatic pistols like that. I had Deadpool's gun on that. We sawed-off shotguns. I actually, that one, I worked with a company that was doing an over-under, one of the short-barreled over-unders, and I was like, can we get one of these or a couple of these and chop we needed to turn it into like a one-handed thing. And like, it was so cool. It was that was a fantastic experience, and I still cherish it, and I definitely own that movie still. Yeah. That would definitely probably be my like most fun. I could probably rack my brain for some other real cool fun things that we've done, but that one was just wild because of the amount of shooting that got done on that movie.
How about name dropping any actors or movie titles that you've really enjoyed working on or with?
All right, so I'm gonna name drop an actor that people are gonna actually have to look him up. It's like B-list, but Ron Livingston.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so of Office Space fame.
Yeah.
And the reason I like dropping his name is I actually taught him how to use a firearm for a show, and we ran into each other on another set several years later. I was prop mastering something else, and it was an anthology series. So we had different like A-list cast every episode, and he was one of the cast for that episode. We had a complicated rigging thing, but anyway, he was trying to place me, and he's like, we've worked together on something. And the problem with film is that it all kind of bleeds together after a while.
Yeah.
When you do a dozen shows a year, you really don't remember what you did. And I had lost about 120 pounds since I had seen him last. So I looked a little bit different as well. But then it clicked. And the reason I love telling this story, because I saw it click in his eye, and he was like, you taught me how to make a gun safe. And he did the motions where he's like, drop the magazine, open the action. He's like, you taught me how to do, and I was like, oh, it's stuck. Oh, Ron, that makes me so happy that it's stuck. and as soon as he did, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly where we met. We met on this thing. But that was a really cool experience, because not only was it like, it was something that I taught him that he held on to and was still like able to mime just like randomly in a studio at like 6 o'clock at night on a Wednesday. So that was really cool. And experiences like that make me happy.
That's cool. Thanks
Yeah,
for
it
sharing
is
that.
really cool.
That's awesome. So I had a question. I just want to roll back to the day in the life of Dustin. So you go to the magical place where all the guns are, and you get to select everything, and you put it in and transport it. So obviously, most of our guests and ourselves, we're used to transporting guns that fire and ammo and everything, and we take it to a range or we go hunting or what have you. I just want to talk about how the rules are for you. Are they exact same? And how do you transport? And then when you're on set, where do they all get stored so that you're managing the movement of them on set?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Okay, so in general, more or less exactly how you would safely transport any of your firearms to the range, with a little bit of a variance. Our business license allows us to transport firearms anywhere that they are going to be used for the purposes of that production. So, like, I can take guns to the studio, for instance, like to the office. If we've got a production meeting, I need to show these guns off. I've taken a couple of selfies of myself with just like a box of handguns in the office, just because I'm like, well, couldn't do this if it wasn't my job. And so like there's things like that, but the sort of standard rules still apply. Locked case, trigger locked firearms, and we'll trigger lock everything, even if it's non-restricted, doesn't matter. Double lock, everything gets a double lock. The case gets locked, the gun gets locked, as a bare minimum. And then paperwork as well for every gun. I have a binder that I travel with, so anytime I sign a gun out, and honestly, even if it's a replica, like if it's a rubber, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a piece of paperwork from the magic place that lists everything that I've got, serial numbers, descriptions. I keep a copy of that with me at all times. And so say we're going to go, I'm picking up guns for set. So then we'll go to set. And where I will land is I will land at the prop truck. And the prop truck is on my business license. That's the other place that the guns are allowed to be essentially. And I'm quite proud of my prop truck. We built it like a big metal box. I've checker plated, 1/4-inch steel or 1/2-inch steel on the and a fairly heavy door. I got a compliment from one of the CFOs during my last inspection. Actually, he was like, I wish more people did this. And then on the truck, we've also got a safe that I insisted be positioned in such a way that you can't attack it with a concrete saw, basically. And that's also secured to the truck. So that's where the guns are allowed to live when they're not on set or being stored back at the location in their home. And then the standard procedure, as soon as the guns come to set or come to the truck, even though I usually have, like, they've been safe and cleared before I pick them up, obviously. It's still the first thing that I do. Every single one of them, I'm going to safe and clear. They're going to go into the safe, and I'm going to check them off on my little piece of paperwork. And that paperwork gets duplicated, and there's a sign-out book on the truck as well, right? So anytime something leaves the safe, it is documented. There is a signature and also a supervisor signature. So whether it's myself or the assistant prop master, somebody is also needing to double sign off this gun or thing has left. And then it'll go to set. And like I said, same protocols. The second we roll to set, we'll do another safe and clear with the relevant folks. So that's always going to be the first AD and potentially the stunt coordinator actors, and honestly, anybody else who has any desire to visually confirm that that firearm is safe and clear. I always encourage people. Yeah, you want to come see? I'll happily show you. I'll shine the light in the action for you too, because it doesn't hurt.
You're finding there's more interest from actors since what happened down in the U.S.?
There was for a while. It depends on the actor. There are a lot that couldn't care less, which is why all of the safety protocols need to be, because this is why I don't like name dropping. A lot of actors are children, and like, just like you wouldn't hand an 8-year-old a gun without supervision, the same rules should apply for a lot of actors. I worked on a show had a whole series with this one pretty well-known actor, and she had a horrible habit of pointing guns at everyone. And I ended up having to assign a specific person just to be her shadow, just responsible for her gun. At the time, we couldn't get a good replica of a Glock 19 that would fit in her holster, so we were using just a clear and safe blank fire Glock 19 for all of her scenes. We probably wouldn't do that now, but still, even though we had no blank ammunition on set unless we were doing blank fire, she still had a gun on her, and the second the scene was over, she'd start shedding props. Like, the badge would go flying, the handcuffs would go flying. She'd leave stuff lying around everywhere, including the gun, if she didn't, like, she never felt like she was responsible for anything. So that shadow, as soon as they call cut, he's there. And the first thing she would do, draw her gun, finger on the trigger, point it at him. Here you go. And it got to be a thing where like after this happened a couple of times on a day, like, I had to go talk with her. I'm like, you can't point guns at people. And she's like, I'm not. And I'm like, give me your gun. And pulls the gun, does the same thing to me. And I look down at her. She's like pointing a gun, finger on the trigger. And I'm like, I pointed away. And she's like, what? And I'm like, do you understand what you are doing? So you've got actors on that level.
Yeah.
Who have no desire to be responsible, no interest in it. And then you've got actors that they want to know all the minutia. They want the training. They're interested in that. So, it's like everything else. It runs the whole spectrum.
Yeah. It sounds like you really enjoy your job.
It does. It does indeed. Yeah. So Dustin, if you had a magic wand for your next future production, big movie or series, would it be something futuristic, something John Wick, something old Western? What would you want?
All right. Well, Kelly knows that if I could wave a magic wand, I would do a big sci-fi movie. I'm still hopeful I get to do a big sci-fi movie, but I'm not gonna lie, it's not official yet. I have not signed paperwork, so I cannot talk about it. But I did submit my request for my rate the other day. There is a good likelihood that I'm going to be on a show that is going to be pretty brag-worthy when
there you
it's
go.
all said and done. So,
that's exciting. That's exciting. And awesome. Have you had a chance to work on any historical? I wanted to touch on that before we flip, because historical firearms, and like whether it be a military movie or some kind of a Western cowboy action, something, I mean, that's near and dear to people's heart, and making sure that the historical accuracy, right? So is there anything in your repertoire on that side of things?
I wish there was. I only have third-hand experience stories from folks that have. And again, like, I've worked with some of the best, and they've got some wonderful stories about exactly that, shooting like black powder guns. And there's a whole other deal when you're dealing with black powder on set, because it's not like a standard, modern firearm that you can safe and clear. And I heard a wonderful story that I won't repeat, but like, just there is a whole other aspect when you're dealing with muzzle loading firearms on set. And I really would love to. I've missed a couple of opportunities. There was like a World War II one that I was really hopeful for that I didn't get, but at some point in my life, I'm sure I will get to do that too.
I'm sure you will as well.
Yeah.
So There has been a time and period over the last little bit, like we had what happened down in the US, and then we had COVID, and then we had, the writer's strike. And so that does impact you and your ability to do your job, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that sometimes it's feast and sometimes it's famine. But what recommendations do you have for people who maybe are interested in it? Because it's a wonderful career, and obviously you explained how you fell into it, but there are going to be people who are interested in it. So what are your recommendations for people who are listening that may want to become an armorer or a prop master and get to that point?
I get asked that all the time. And yeah, it is there's a lot of famine right now, I'm not gonna lie. If it's a thing you're really, really interested in, I request that everybody ask themselves one question first. Are you comfortable being responsible for the liability involved? Just full stop. That is the thing you have to be sure you are truly comfortable with, because at the end of the day, whatever guns there are, you are responsible for. And as we've seen from the incident, the armorer is the only one that did any jail time in that whole nightmare of an incident. As long as you are comfortable and confident, then definitely your start is going to be in the prop department. That's that's going to be either the direction that you'll take to get your armorer's ticket, or at least how you're going to meet the folks that are doing that job. The one thing about film, it is 110% who you know, and how you get to know those people is by working lots. So get into the prop department and say yes as much as possible. If somebody asks you if you want to work, yes is always the correct answer, even if it's a crappy, 5 a.m. Sunday call. Go do it. You might meet someone good and interesting, or that will hook you up with someone else that's
Right.
in that direction. Everything about film is who you know, and then finding the right people. There are some famous armorers in town that we all kind of snicker about. There's like one outfit that's not so bueno, that we all know about, and they're all doing the job. They're technically armorers, but I wouldn't want them on my set. So definitely the other thing is to be aware who you're working with and who you're learning from. Because you can learn the wrong things from the wrong people, and that can be bad. I honestly though, like I question how long this is even going to still be a thing at the direction we're going. I don't know, not to be all doomery. It is there aren't a lot of people doing armorer work full time. Like the reason I am in props is is how I pay the bills a lot of the time. And then you'll get you'll get 3 or 4 months worth of armorer work doing something. But yeah, it's a feast or famine industry, and you definitely have to be prepared for that. So diversify is the other thing that I can recommend. Be really good at like 3 or 4 things. That has served me well.
There you go.
Really great words of advice. Really great words of advice.
Thank you.
And because we're called She Shoots, and we typically have a lot of conversations with women and about women getting into different aspects of shooting or competition, etc. Or career. Yes, thank you, Kelly. Are you seeing ladies, girls, women coming into props, into Armory, and doing the job as well?
Yes, actually. I don't know if it's like a 1-to-1 parity, but there are a lot of women in the prop department. I would say, like, out of all of the departments, it's probably one of the few where there is almost a gender parity. Most of my crew, when I'm prop mastering, like my go-to assistant prop master, and I love her. Shout out Rebecca. She loves all of the power and none of the responsibility. That's so she runs the show, right? Usually that one step down is the person actually running the show, just like the assistant director is really the person who runs the set. But yeah, most of my prop teams have usually had at least a couple of women on them, and that's pretty constant and consistent. Even though, like, I'm building props right now for a series, and all because it is a requirement for in the union that you have a firearms license. There is at least that like base level, but like the women in the prop build house that I'm working in right now, they're gun enthusiasts. They all own guns, and it's a thing that we chat about, and is cool. So yeah, it is a thing that you're seeing probably even more now, and growing for sure.
That's great.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. I wasn't sure quite how to ask that, because usually it's about what would you recommend to get more women
Yep.
in shooting sports. But in this case, it sounds like there's already a path been blazed by many ladies into that space. So being versatile and having your gun license sounds like a good way to start.
Absolutely.
Now, normally we also give you the ability to give a shout out, or to mention those people that have been mentors to you. You've
Mhm.
said that there was somebody who specifically was a huge mentor, but you wouldn't
Will
name
remain
him.
nameless. Yes.
So is there anybody or that you would like to just recognize, or?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So it didn't end up coming up as a technical question, but I wanted to shout out my mom, actually,
Aw.
and there's a good reason for that. At the end of the pandemic, she was looking for a career change. She was doing some film stuff, and I actually taught her how to prop master, and she started prop mastering non-union things. And there was this beautiful show, this beautiful movie that we got to do together, where she needed an armorer, and I got to be her armorer, and we got to do an entire movie together. And it's I'm getting a little emotional. It's one of my favorite film experiences, getting to do that with my mom, and like I got to teach her a career path that, she's not doing it now. She's moved back to Saskatchewan. She's doing something else, but she still utilizes some of those things. But getting to do that with her was an experience that I wouldn't trade for almost anything. I'm definitely going to shout out my mom.
There you
Thank
go.
you. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And if people want to take a look at this as a career path, can you recommend any of the training locations, academic, university, anything that would help people get into this line of business?
Yeah, so there isn't like a defined career path for it. What I would say, obviously, like if you're looking at it seriously, you're going to need to be a member of a film union anyway. So regardless of where you are, find out where your like local IATSE, IATSE, thank you, yeah. Find out where your local union hall is, and find out what their requirements are just to join. And start working towards that. That's going to be step one for sure. They will require you to have a firearms license. This is obviously not a problem for anybody into guns. But another thing that I've found useful and is the reason I keep getting work is the other things I've done outside of it. Like I said, I've gone and taken some use of force courses and just gained some more experience with firearms, and that becomes useful. And you can kind of sell yourself that way as, hey, I have this whole skill set. It's not just I like guns. I have experience in XYZ area with guns. And that is really how you're going to get your foot in the door. And then you just got to talk to people, work as hard as you can, and talk to as many people as you can until you find that person who either is that mentor or knows that mentor. That's, yeah.
So if people want to contact you, maybe potentially you could be their mentor, how are they going to contact you?
Oh, that is a good question. I mean, people now can contact me through Slamfire, but
they can.
Yeah, I that would probably be the easiest way. I'm strangely not like super out on the socials.
You're not.
Like, I know. Yeah. Reach out to me. Come check out Slamfire Radio and reach out to us there if you're really interested in this. I'll happily reach out to you, or contact this wonderful podcast, and Kelly can also put you in touch with me.
I can.
Yeah, I'm happy to share lots of information. Like I said, I ramble, so gotta cut me off somewhere.
Well, I think that's a great segue, Dustin, because I think it's time to cut us all off, because we're now at the top of the hour, and we're going to bring Rahina and Casey back in, and we're going to wrap up the show, and we're going to take it from there. Over to you, Rahina.
Sorry, I forgot I muted myself. So just need to remind myself of that. Okay, well, thank you so much again, Dustin, for joining us today. It was just so interesting just listening to all of your stories. So, yeah, so good podcast for anyone that wants to listen or recommend it to somebody else to listen to. So it was interesting. I don't think we got any questions for you, so you're off the hook for answering more questions.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes,
Well, of course I
absolutely.
am, and that's what we do. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
But there's Carlos, or so I think this person may be related to you.
Yeah, he's my
Can you
uncle from
translate?
Mexico.
Can you translate for this?
So he's saying un abrazo lleno de cariño, Regina. So he's saying sending me a big hug full of love.
Oh,
Love it.
That's adorable.
Yes.
great.
So we are being listened to down in Mexico. So
Yay.
we're international, by the way. So thanks for asking, Kelly. But other than that, I'll just go ahead and start with our upcoming events. So it's, as we know, it's summertime. Yes. So the schools are out, so there's no activities going out with the university clubs at the moment, but that means it's a perfect time to reach out to us in case you want to be a volunteer or you're interested in starting your own club at a university that does not have a firearms club. So you could, if you want to reach out to us, please send us an email at submissions@cusf.ca. So Kelly, Mapleseed.
Yep. So lots of things happening with Project Mapleseed. Go to our website, mapleseedrifleman.com. You can check out the events page. We do have a ladies event that's coming up in September. It's going to be happening in the Blue Ridge Sportsman's Club, which is in Blue Mountain, Ontario. It's a ladies only event. It's going to be released to the public very soon. So if you know any ladies that are in that area, like Collingwood, Barrie, Meaford, all those areas up in the Parry Sound area, we'd love to see ladies on the line. And yeah, if you are interested in having an event, send an email to info@mapleseedrifleman.com. I'll put you in contact with the shoot boss from that region or the coordinator from that region. And if you're interested in listening to Slamfire Radio, come on tomorrow night, because Dustin and I will be on the show tomorrow night, and I have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but we'll probably update our listeners on being on She Shoots this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it for Mapleseed. What about you, Deneen?
Well, I'm still trying to unscramble my brain. I've been away for 3 weeks on vacation, so now I have to take a look at my calendar. I've got some individual lessons coming up. As I've mentioned on other shows, we are busy training dogs and trialing dogs in the gun dog world, and we've got ladies' nights at the shotgun clubs, and I have been requested by my son, now that school's out, that he wants to go shoot his handgun that was bought for him years ago. He wants to get out to the range, so I'll have to put that on the top of my priority list to get him out and have some fun at the range. So
awesome.
That's me.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies. And once again, thank you so much, Dustin, for joining us today. And yes, please go ahead and listen to them at Slamfire Radio. So with that, I'll just go ahead and wrap up today's show. So thank you again to Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fund, Beretta, and Vortex for sponsoring us. If you like today's episode, please leave us a like and follow us so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. If you liked our message and would like to learn more about our programs, check out our websites at cusf.ca, ladyguns.ca, and mapleseedrifleman.com. To support us and get some additional perks, check out our membership programs. Thank you all for tuning into the She Shoot Podcast, Season 4, Episode 42, Real Armory and Prop Master. Make sure to join us on August 12th for the next episode of the She Shoot Podcast at our regular time, and keep an eye on our social media pages for the episode announcement. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night, Kelly.